All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Podcast 83, brought to you by DTE Energy. We appreciate their sponsorship. This, of course, is the podcast put on by Michigan Association of Counties. My name is Steve Currie. We've got Deena Bosworth, Director of Governmental Affairs, and Meghann Keit, Government Affairs Associate here once again, back here on a Super Bowl Monday. Hopefully everyone's got a little sleep last night, didn't stay up too late watching the game. It was a decent game. I thought it was going to be a little better. I don't know, did you guys watch the game at all?
Yeah, I did. I agree. It wasn't that great, but I'm happy Tom Brady won.
Yeah, that was nice to see.
Senator Thomas was not. He kept sending me texts last night. The officials are rigging the game. He was very mad.
Who was saying that?
Thomas.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I think you got the benefit of some calls, but it's pretty amazing everything Tom Brady's done up until this point. So you can at least root for a good guy. So, all right, let's get into it.
He just had somebody who, oh, sorry. He just had somebody that lived near him that played for the Chiefs. So he was really good.
Okay. Well, let's get into it. Let's first talk a little bit about, there's been a lot of talk beginning of the year about the supplemental bill. Meghann, why don't you give us a quick update on where that is and what kind of the hang up is with that and what we expect with that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Steve. So yeah, we mentioned it briefly last week, and the House has now voted that out of the full chamber. So now it goes over to the Senate. But they passed a $3.5 million supplemental, a COVID relief funding plan, and it had a lot of high dollar spending on additional SNAP benefits, rental, and utility assistance. There was a lot of business relief, so different programs for property tax and unemployment insurance tax relief for businesses. And they also passed a $1.8 billion supplemental for school aid. And most of this is all federal funds that they are trying to distribute and get out as quick as possible. However, on that school one, they did tie that bill. We call it tie barring, but they basically attached it to another bill, so both would have to get signed by the governor to go into effect and get that money out. The bill that the House tied that school funding to would restrict the Department of Health and Human Services director from closing schools to in-person instruction, and also prohibit them from having control or shutting down any sort of high school sporting events. Clearly that opens today. That was announced last week. But basically what the bill would do is shift that over, so our local health departments would have to meet certain metrics, and then they could determine whether or not the school or that sporting event would be closed down. We do know the Department of Health and Human Services, as well as our partners over at the Michigan Association of Local Public Health, have come out opposed to that idea. I think it's really a logistics concern to figure out where you have school districts that cross different county health departments, and how that would all work and play out. So that goes before the Senate. They are probably going to put forward their own supplemental plan this weekend and continue those conversations between each chamber and the governor's office.
Great. Deena, did you want to add anything to that, or?
I think I just, obviously I think that it's still going to be a point of contention. And Meghann, you confirm this because you're working much more closely with the public health departments than I am, but still more of a point of contention between the legislature and the governor's office on who has these, the ability to issue the public health orders and school district decisions. I'm not sure the governor's office is really on the same page as the legislature on that. And so what it looks like going forward is just, again, more contention between the two.
Great, and before I forget to, if you do have any questions, if anyone has questions, you can type them in the chat and we'll be happy to answer them at any point in time, or probably closer to the end as well. So Deena, let's move into, we are off in a budget time year as well. So we've got the supplemental to work with last year's budget, but we also have we're working on a new budget year coming up as well. Where are we at with that?
Well, the governor's going to do her budget presentation this week to the legislature. So that'll be Thursday, February 11th, where she'll go before the appropriations committees and present what she wants for her fiscal year 22 budget, which starts October 1st.
Did we lose Deena there, Meghann?
Yeah, I think it froze on my end too, but I can continue where I think Deena was going. But yeah, so we will have the governor provide her budget presentation on Thursday. I think that the outlook is a little better than it was in August when we had expectations that we were down, $2, $3, $4 billion. In April and March last year, we were looking at COVID, how is this going to affect it? The last few months, it looks like the current revenues are about 1.2 billion more than what that last August projection was. So that's definitely a good outlook. Of course, we are hoping for increases in revenue sharing. We have new expenses coming in with raise the age funding this year. Standard 5 is now approved with the MIDC. So there's going to be some things we're definitely keeping an eye on and pushing for in the, hopefully it's in the governor's recommendation, but also pushing forward with the conversation in the legislature.
Deena, before we lost you there, Meghann picked it up, but did you want to talk at all about some of the items you'll be focusing on in the budget? We obviously know revenue sharing is one of those numbers. Is there anything else you'll be looking at?
You always watch for, appropriations. Let's see really in the supplemental what's going to happen with that business tax credit. We want to make sure that all of our, line items are still there. I don't like to bring up the potential for cuts, but there are some line items that we really try to protect, and it's more of a, I don't know how to say this. The personal property tax line is what we really worry about. And so the reimbursement that our counties get, the cities and townships get for their personal property tax relief is always something I'm concerned about, especially in the budget season where they can go and amend state statute to kind of take that away to help balance our budget. So we watch that very closely. That's about it. Mostly revenue sharing. There's some DNR lines and DEQ appropriations lines, but most of it is judicial and revenue sharing.
It will certainly be interesting if we have a supplemental bill that they can't agree on, and now we have a budget presentation. What'll be interesting to see, can they agree on one and not the other, or neither, or both, and at what point in time all that occurs, right? Because we usually would like to have that budget done June, July. Don't they have to have it done by July now? Isn't the statute, or did they remove that statute last year?
I think they gave themselves a break for a year.
Okay.
But it's still a requirement just because of COVID. But then we saw the year before, she had unprecedented number of line item vetoes.
Yep.
Because they didn't agree and they couldn't negotiate it out. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. And you mentioned PPTs, obviously personal property tax, and property taxes, of course, are an important component of revenues for county government. There is a bill that has been introduced that has to deal with broadband expansion that we have some concerns about. Deena, you want to talk a little bit about that bill and where things are right now?
Yeah, that's Senate Bill 46, and Senate Bill 46 exempts broadband equipment and telecommunications equipment that's installed after December 31st, 2020 from the General Property Tax Act. Not clear if that includes the towers that it sits on and the real property on there, because it's supposed to all be exempt, but it is at a minimum personal property. That's all the lines, all the transmission, all the different kinds of equipment to get broadband out. And so the bill, it's noble in its purpose in that they're trying to give telecommunication and broadband providers an incentive to do that build out. And the build out to go, especially to rural areas in that last mile, is not only expensive, but their return on their investment is minor. And it's a detriment to building it out. Now, the bill sponsor believes that exempting them from paying taxes to the local units of government is going to give them enough incentive to do that build out. We're not so sure that that's the case. There are some other problems with that legislation, but primarily local units of government being so dependent on property tax revenue and revenue sharing to make our budgets function properly. Exempting any of that out is against our platforms. Our members have met in committee and our board has voted to oppose any legislation that exempts property from the collection of taxes at the local level. We saw it with veterans, although extremely noble in its cause. You know, disabled veterans now no longer have to pay property taxes. We face these exemptions on a regular basis, so it's not that they're not good ideas. It's just local units of government need to be reimbursed for it. So we're working with MML and with MTA to come up with some suggested amendments to Senate Bill 46. We want to ensure that if you are going to exempt this equipment, the state is reimbursing locals for their losses, that the metrics are there. So that if they are going to have this incentive and a better return on investment, they should be doing that build out. And they should be utilizing that money in the state of Michigan, trying to reach those people that really need that broadband service, and not, you know, just a better return on investment and then investing that money elsewhere. So we also need to disentangle sort of the broadband equipment from the telecommunications equipment. So we're getting at the root of the problem.
Yeah, I think, sorry. Yeah, I think, you know, in short, what you're saying is that a lot of these property tax exemptions are noble, good issues. Broadband is obviously something that has become more important than ever with the pandemic, and we need to make sure that people are getting it. But if we're going to vote, if the state legislature is going to vote on that, then the state should pay for it, and they should reimburse locals for it, not just vote for them to take that revenue out of their pocket. So good. I think that's, you know, a good point to make there, that a lot of these exemptions we fight, you know, may not always disagree with conceptually. It's just how they do it is the right way to do that. And I think it's great that we're presenting some options, and hopefully the bill sponsors open to looking at some of those options going forward. So moving on, committees. Have all the committees been meeting now? Can you guys bring everyone up on our internal committees and how things are going?
Yeah, I think, you know, Meghann kicked it off in January, right? You kicked it off with the first committee meeting in January. What'd you guys talk about?
Yeah, we had our Judiciary and Public Safety meeting kicked off in January. We had the state court administrator joined us, former judge out of Bingham County, Tom Boyd, as well as the new Judiciary Chair, Senator Roger Victory. So it was a great kickoff meeting to have those guys in there and just talk about priorities and kind of teeing up the year. So we'll have our first Health and Human Services official meeting at the end of February. And so we're getting ramped up. We have a lot of new faces. It's really awesome to see so many new commissioners, some that are newly elected, but some that just want to be more engaged and be more, involved with MAC.
It really is exciting. My finance committee met last week, and that's finance and general government, and I was amazed at the number of members on it. It's just fantastic, the increase in participation. And they're from all over the state, so I think we get a much better sampling, much better representation. We talked about labor contracts and finance and general government. We had Matt Norford on, and he talked about really what labor negotiations are going to look like, what those contracts are going to look like post-COVID. So we talked about, you know, vaccines, and we talked a little bit about liability. We talked about hazard pay and essential workers and what those negotiations are going to look like in the coming year. So that was really interesting. We have environmental this week. We're going to talk about solid waste management. That's an issue that is going to be, you know, come up again this legislative term. We've got agriculture and tourism coming up. We're going to hear from an organic farmer up north, and we're going to talk about agriculture, tourism, and then transportation. We're just going to start talking about really local road options, local road funding, and some of the proposals that we think are going to come out. So it's really kind of an exciting lineup for our committees.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys have had some good presentations in committees already this year. And along those same lines, we have DHHS, the new DHHS director, Elizabeth Hertel, joining us on the podcast. Meghann, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were, as a Health and Human Services Committee, we reached out last year to Director Robert Gordon, just kind of to talk about the state and county relationships, everything that we coordinate with them on with Health and Human Services. And so we were going to do the same thing with Director Hertel. However, I think it's going to reach more of our members to have her on the podcast. So we invited her for the 16th at 4:30. We'll have a few questions for her. I'm sure a ton of members will send some questions in and get her thoughts on priorities for the department and continuing the vaccination rollout and how everything's going with COVID-19.
Yeah, that'll be great. We'll have it a live version and then a recorded version as well, I'm sure. So please be aware of that and start thinking about that. One other piece of housekeeping that we have is last week our decision was made to move to a virtual conference, so we will not be having an in-person MAC legislative conference at the end of April. It will be virtual, so more details will be following on that. Probably similar to last year's virtual, and then we're keeping our fingers crossed that our annual conference this fall will be in person. Hopefully enough vaccines are out that we can safely host the conference where everyone can attend. So with that, I'll turn it over to Derek, and the disembodied voice will ask any questions we have.
Yes, thank you, Steve. As of right now, we do not have any questions for the panel. All questions apparently have been answered.
Wow, all the preparation we do for this really pays off.
Oh, here, I take it back. We just got one in, just came in over the transom.
All right.
Broadband. USDA Rural Development has funded initiatives in the past on broadband. Who are the beneficiaries, companies that would benefit? Where are their plans for expansion? This is from Don Brown.
Okay. Don, I have a whole list, and if you don't mind, I'll email it to you. And actually, I can probably make it available to Derek to put on our website too, of the companies that are getting the money. So there's over $300 million that's coming in through CDBG grants. And then there's another 25 million in rural development, one or the other. Anyway, we have a significant list of companies that are getting money in each of our counties. And so we can put that list up on our website for you.
I believe it does break it down by county too, so you can go to each county and see what company got it and the amount.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the list here, but I could, it's several pages.
Yeah.
Back. So, reading them out would probably take forever.
Right. Any other questions, Derek?
No, there are no current questions.
Okay. Well, great. Well, everyone try to get some rest tonight. It was late night with the football game, so.
Sorry, I got another question. I'm sorry.
Okay, no worries.
If the tax-free equipment goes through, is that time limited? This is from Don Van Sickle.
10 years. So it would be exempt from taxes for 10 years from the time that it's installed. So basically you put the new equipment in there and then it gives it time to depreciate. And so then they wouldn't pay taxes until after that 10-year period.
All right, great. I'm calling a close on the questions. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're closed out.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. Please, in the meantime, between this week and next week, if you do have any questions that come up, feel free to ask us. Any one of us, you can ask the question to, and we'll get you an answer as quickly as possible. So thanks, everyone, and have a good week.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye.